Overnight, a Harvey Weinstein accuser coming forward with new details. Rowena Chiu writing an op-ed in the New York Times, detailing her time working as Weinstein's assistant in 1998. Chiu writing, Harvey Weinstein told me he liked Chinese girls. He liked them because they were discreet, he said, because they knew how to keep a secret. Hours later, he attempted to rape me. At the Venice Film Festival that year, Chiu says that she and Weinstein were discussing potential film productions and scripts late one night when he attacked her. After hours of fending off his chit-chat, flattery, requests for massages, and a bath, ultimately I found myself pushed back against the bed. I'd worn 2 pairs of tights for protection and tried to appease him by taking one of them off and letting him massage me, but it hadn't worked. Frightened, Chiu says that she managed to escape, but she and a colleague faced resistance when they tried to report what had happened. The message was always the same. Who would ever believe us over the most powerful man in Hollywood? Chiu says she was pressured into signing a non-disclosure agreement and accepted a settlement of $200,000. She struggled to find work following the incident, blamed herself for what happened, and even attempted suicide twice in the years that followed. I lived in constant fear of Harvey's abuse, control, and power, that the story would come back to haunt me. I suffered completely isolated from those around me who could have provided the support I needed. A loved one, a trusted pastor, a respected therapist, even the man I would marry. Chiu first went public with her story in a recent interview on the Third Hour of Today.
The NDA asked us to keep a secret about something that happened to me while I was working for 20 years, and that in itself was a very difficult thing to do over 20 years.
She appeared with actress Ashley Judd and New York Times reporters Jodie Cantor and Megan Twohey, who first broke the Weinstein story. Cantor showed up on Chiu's doorstep when the reporters were first investigating allegations against Weinstein, but it took Chiu nearly 2 years after the story first broke to eventually come forward. She says meeting with other alleged sexual assault victims at Gwyneth Paltrow's house in January created a seismic shift in her that helped her eventually go public.
It's been a long journey.
It's a fascinating read and really sheds a light on, the process that individuals have in terms of deciding to come forward and break their silence. What about the criminal case against Weinstein? That continues to go forward, but is there a trial date set? What's happening?
Yes, there is a trial date. It's January here in New York. He faces 2 trials, not to do with Chiu, 2 separate accusers, 2 sexual assault charges, one of them rape for an incident in 2013. He's pleaded not guilty to both of those charges, and he just recently lost an effort to get the venue switched out of New York City to somewhere else, so it'll be here in New York in January.